They say there are two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. This week we are speaking to a tax expert. We're speaking to Hadijah Nannyomo, who is a tax partner at EY, and she's telling us all about her career and all the things we need to know when tax planning. This is She Means Business. I am your host, Claire Munde.
Indeed, from my accent, I'm truly Ugandan, and everywhere I go, I can easily be picked as a Ugandan. I'm born and bred in Uganda, but my story about Kenya happened when I joined EY in 2006, early 2006, and we normally have mobilities across the region, East Africa. So 2007, I was sent to Kenya on a 6-month placement. I came, I did what I did, I went back. But then come 2012, an opportunity arose where they needed someone to take on a role of growing the customs business. I'm a customs trained person, what we call indirect taxes, VAT, customs excise. So I was sent to come here to come and set up that practice, 2012, 2016. After 2016, I went back to Uganda. But come 2019, there was an opportunity in Kenya, so I had to come back. And that's how I landed here. Different stories, different times. Each time I came, it's a different story, it's a different rank, and different perspectives and lessons learned. That's how I ended up here.
Wow. Now, I want us to go a little bit deeper into two things you've said. Now, you said there's a lot of mobility. There are chances for mobility. And a lot of people who have been on She Means Business have said that sometimes as you're building your career and you want to get to those C-suite levels, the issue of mobility is a big factor. So you should be able to work not just in your country of origin, but you should be able to go through the continent, even outside the continent. So tell us the role of mobility, or how important it is for that woman who's watching, who wants to grow in her career, she wants to be in that C-suite level. How important is it to move beyond her country to experience and lead in other countries? And then also speak to us about your experience setting up the Kenyan customs section, because you had your experience in Uganda. What were the different nuances when it comes to the Kenyan and Ugandan environments?
Actually, you ask a very good question about mobility. I actually want to call it flexibility, because it's not only the idea of moving from country to country, but it's the idea of working with diverse people, diverse environments, jurisdictions. You can stay in Kenya and be a Kenyan, but you're working with people in Uganda, in Tanzania, in South Africa. So for that woman who has that cultural limitation and feels like they are not flexible, they can't move, it becomes a little harder for you to grow your career. You can grow fine, but you may miss something when you're up there and maybe you're a regional CEO or something without practically experiencing that. So for me, from where I see it, I feel like that flexibility is very important. I've only actually not worked in Kenya. I've been open to move to other countries. I've worked in South Africa for a short stint. I keep moving to Rwanda, Tanzania. I've actually gone to South Sudan several times. But it's not the easiest, of course. There's the inconvenience at times, traveling and all that. But it's worth it. If you're to grow in your career, you need to experience different countries, different cultures, different, even technical nuances for us who are in tax that happen in different countries. So what I would tell the fellow women that are out there working is they really need to put in the extra effort. I call it a sacrifice. You have to be flexible to take up challenges. And when it comes to the question you asked about me coming to set up, I think that time is what taught me what starting even the smallest business of all a kiosk is. Because you're starting from scratch and there's nothing you can do without preparation. You need to look at the teams. What teams are you going to work with? You need to look at, for me, I had to look at a new environment in terms of networks, stakeholders, that is externally, but I also needed to do the internal bit. Then you need to acclimatize with the people, the new people who are seeing you, you're new, you're coming up. Whichever level you're at, you'll have people above you and people below you. You have to first prove yourself. Like I said, I went back. I was just here in 2007 up to 8, and I came back 2018. You don't expect that I would find the same people. So there were new people, new leaders. But for me, everything is worth it. Be it bad or good, everything is worth it. And it is something that grows you to be the better person you are. It's a journey which I took, and I'm so proud of it now. A lot of new things. The area of customs in consulting is not an area that is so, it's open to very few people, and it's a bit too technical. So getting given the resources is not so easy. So that was a big challenge I had. Then training the teams internally. Most consulting firms don't have many people, accountants doing custom. But all is good now. We are well set up. We are where we are. I have a team, a good team across the region, and we are serving our client.
Now I want us to talk a little bit more about, you said the area you operate in is very technical. And you know, when we talk about leadership, we say that sometimes there are sectors where you'll find women are not as many as we would like. The numbers are not there as much. So tell us about the customs area. And there's that, it's an unconscious bias sometimes that some of these technical fields, women are not in them, and so on and so forth. So I'd like you to speak to that. What has your experience been like being in a very technical field, technical specialization? And what are your thoughts about how women can really rise to some of these sectors that are sometimes male dominated?
I think the first thing is to go back to flexibility. You must be flexible. But we also need not to overlook the fact that there are some things that are natural to women. We can't compare ourselves to men. The women, we have to take time off to go and raise babies, have a family, start a family. Women, we know that even in the cultural settings when we were growing up, the girls were not looked at the same way as boys. There are some cultures where actually girls were not supposed to go to school. So you expect that person who grew up living in such an environment where the boys are higher or looked at in a different lens than her, to come and also come to the corporate world and start, you know, doing the same things that men do. And I think for me, within our African culture, that is what has led to finding many women behind men, and many roles being looked at and many professions being looked at like they are the professions that are for men and these are for women. But what I'm liking lately is with affirmative action that has happened in most of the countries. Where I come from in Uganda, when I was at the university, many years before and after I left university, women were given, all girls had 1.5 points extra ahead of men, just to raise the numbers of girls that are going to go to university and actually complete. And that helped. When it came to governments, you'll find many of the African governments, they are serving specific roles for women. So from where I sit, I don't even feel like we should be looking so much at that as a problem anymore. We do not have so much of, yes, we were disadvantaged, but it's something that can be broken as we move on, and a lot is happening that is breaking it. So I want to just encourage all of us women to not so much go back to the past and look at it. And as women, we lift each other's hands. You have started She Means Business. You are lifting us up. And we are here seated, talking to fellow women, advising them, telling them, yes, come. It can happen. It is possible.
And now, as we speak, like, let's not look so much at the past. There's a lot of progress that has been made. I'd like you to give some of your own personal experiences in your professional life. Have there been instances where you've experienced something that you felt, this is a challenge that is unique to me as a woman? Or have you just experienced challenges that both men and women would face? Because there are people who look at it two different ways. And even the guests who have been on She Means Business, there are those who say, you know what, they're the unique things, as you said, there are women who have to leave the workplace for some time to raise children and so on and so forth. But then there are also just issues that both men and women face. So what is your take on that? And maybe you can share maybe one or two experiences that you've had in your own career that you've had to overcome and how you overcame them.
Personally, first of all, I'm Muslim. I'm a proud Muslim. Many people, when I ask for an Uber or when I'm going somewhere and they see my name Hadijah, they don't recognize I'm the one. I enter the car and they're like, are you the one? Then I say, yes, I'm Hadijah. You're not veiled. And I'm like, okay, but I'm Muslim. I actually pray. And on top of that, I'm Ugandan. I'm not only Ugandan, I'm a Muganda. Chiganda culture is so cultural. It's quite cultural that at some point there's quite a distinction between a man and a woman. So in different environments I've gone to, and I've been a lot outside Uganda, I feel like it comes out when at times I step back as a woman and I say, let me step back, I'm a woman. Or at times I don't feel like I should talk so much towards a man because my upbringing, and even right now I still believe I should give that bit of extra respect to a man. Not that I would treat a woman differently, but for me there's that balance I have to keep. It's both from a religious perspective, it's from a cultural perspective, but it's also naturally a personality perspective. It's a balance I always sometimes struggle to find, but you'll find many women and many of us at times also play the role of saying, no, we are both the same. I'm in a family, I wake up, I go to work, you also go to work, so we must be at par in terms of the contributions we bring to the family. So like you've said, it's quite a tricky one and it needs balance. But for me, my mantra or what I believe in is you always have to find the balance between respect and connections, keeping the relationship. We spend a lot of time at work and we don't want to have a lot of fights or disengagements with our teams and with our fellow colleagues that we work with.
Let me delve into that a little bit more before we go to another question. You know, the statistics have shown, and I'm not sure the current ones, but sometimes in African context, there's that thing of for every dollar, a woman is getting like 89 cents or so on and so forth. So how do women advocate for themselves? So yes, there's that thing about respect, there's that thing about knowing where you are, but how do women advocate for themselves to say, you know what, this is what I am doing and this is the kind of compensation I need to have? Because sometimes those are conversations that are not easy for everybody depending on your personality. So what would be that advice you would give to that woman who's watching, who's saying, okay, I believe I am adding value to the organization or so on and so forth, but I may not be feeling that I'm getting the kind of compensation I need. What is that advice you would give her on advocating for herself?
I think the first step to advocating for yourself is there's no way you're going to manage in life without finding that woman group. We understand each other. There are so many ways for you to join a group of like-minded females who can guide you. Then secondly, we need to learn to be more open. We need to open up because, again, going back to culture, many of us are supposed to lay back and keep our problems to ourselves. But for me, I believe openness helps. Reach out to a fellow woman and ask, and leave out the bias bit, because there's also the other side where we take advantage of that. You're the poor performer in the office, then you play the woman card that you're being victimized and you're the minority and all. We need to put in our best, but also to be open. If I give an example of my own place of work, EY, we have a lot of forums for women, and our talent team is women-led. So if you have a problem which you feel is specifically related to you being a female, you can easily open up, come and open up, and we deal with it. And a solution doesn't mean it has to be formalized. You do the investigations. You can even solve it without either parties knowing. So for me, I feel to fellow women, It's the openness, it's joining as many. We do not stop learning. Even presidents are still learning. We have to learn from each other, and we need to be curious, and we need to pay it forward. If you're rising here, you bring the person who is below you to come along with you.
Now let's talk a little bit about mentorship. You have been all over the continent. You have grown to where you are. What role has mentorship played in where you are today? You said women's groups are important, but it's not just women who have probably held your hand. So tell us about how you've gone about mentorship. Have you been deliberate about identifying people in your field that you look up to and asking them to work with you, or has it just been happening on its own?
I think it's twofold. And let me take a step back and say this, because many of us overlook it. The moment you're born, you start getting mentored from that house help, from the neighbor who reports you to your family that Claire was out there playing instead of going to school, to the other neighbor who actually canes you. All that is mentorship. You get to school, you have your teachers disciplining you, they are mentoring you. By the time you get out to start work, you've actually already been mentored. It's just branching off to be mentored as a worker, as a leader, as a manager. Now coming to that level of manager leadership, at manager level, from where I work, you're just dealing with maybe a counselor. But when you start getting into proper leadership, a senior manager, a director, a partner, you need to be deliberate. And for me, I don't want to even say it can take any other form. You need to be deliberate. There is so much to juggle. There are so many stakeholders to deal with. You cannot do it alone. So you'll have a counselor, but you have to get a mentor, and you have to be deliberate. You can say, Claire is very good in this area. Maybe I'll reach out to her to help me. Another person is good in another area. You reach out to them. And after you get that mentorship, because each time you're learning new things, even where I sit, I'm still learning new things. I do not believe in learning something and you don't pass it forward to the next person. I'm always wondering by myself, because sometimes I even self-impose. I see someone who I feel I need to mentor, and I may even mentor them without knowing, and I may not be the counselor. But if if it is something I can do that I believe can add value to that person, why not do it? It really makes sense, and there's no way you can grow in your career and be someone without mentoring. No wonder lately, there are people who are coaches. That's their work, just to mentor people and model them into the best that they can be and how best they can treat those they lead. I believe mentorship is key, and I can't say I'm still looking for mentors.
One of the reasons that She Means Business exists is for other women to see that it's possible to achieve something. So sometimes a question I get a lot is that, you know, we see people, we see Hadijah, and she's doing well, and I want to be mentored by her, but how do I go about it? Because sometimes they say people are going about it the wrong way. So they just step up to you, Hadijah, can you mentor me? But is that really the best way to go about it? So if somebody is probably looking up to you and they're saying, I can see she's a partner in tax, she's doing something that is something I'm interested in, how does somebody go about approaching a mentor? Because there's also the coaches, the executive coaches, but then there's the mentorship. How does somebody go about doing it right? And how do they know that this is the right person to do it for me?
I think the first step is we need to fully understand what mentorship is. Because I've seen many people going about it the wrong way, and at times maybe they don't even know that is not mentoring, the mentorship they want. There's a difference between me seeing a president and admiring them, and me thinking he will mentor me and I will become who he is. First of all, you do not want to just be seeing someone from afar or reading their book or hearing things about them, and you want them to be your mentor. You have to have chemistry. That person has to know you a bit. So first of all, I don't want you to look too far for a mentor. And that's where the approach problem comes in. You have to approach someone who knows you, who without you telling them has an idea what kind of help you need. A person who has come to understand you. If you feel really you've heard a lot about that person, maybe they don't know you, first get to know them before you ask them to be your mentor, because they won't help you if they haven't known who you are. So I find that is one of the mistakes, common mistakes we make. we confuse mentorship and maybe admiration, or, you know, that dream of I want to be like so and so, I want to have this. That getting out of that and being intentional. Anyone around us can mentor us. So why do you move away from this person? Because everyone has got to get somewhere when they have something that they bring to the table and they add value. So what I would advise the upcoming leaders and younger, leaders is look for people close to you and make sure for someone to give you good mentorship, they must know you. Don't move so fast or so far. I think that's the best approach, because by the time you come to me and know you, I have an idea what you may need, as opposed to going to totally different people who do not know you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the work that you do. You're a tax partner. Tell us about, you set up the Kenyan office and so on and so forth. Where we are, and this is in the Kenyan context, first of all, what do you feel about our tax policies? Where are we? What are the areas that need to be improved? Where are we getting it right? Where are we getting it wrong? Because, tax is a very emotive thing, not just in Kenya, the world over. We've had a lot of things happening in Kenya, the finance bills and so on and so forth. But tell us, where are we when it comes to our tax systems? What are we getting right? What are we getting wrong, in your opinion?
I think I'll say a few points, and I want them to be not so broad. First of all, we have the tax policy itself, which is government, legislation, and enactment. And then we have the tax administration, the KRA. Many of us do not know there's a difference between the National Treasury, the legislators, the people who come up with the act, and then KRA, the tax administrator who administers. Now, what does that say about the tax system? We have so many canons of a good tax system. Fairness, simplicity, neutrality, and all. Does that mean our tax system is not simple? Is it simple enough for everyone to know who does what and who is responsible for what? Our systems are very advanced in Kenya. The tax systems are advanced. They are not simple. They are complex. Even me as a tax practitioner who has practiced tax for over 20 years, I still struggle with interpreting some of the provisions. It tells you something. But what I believe is we have very good technocrats. They've put so much good on paper. The question is the implementation. The implementation, how we set up our teams, how we set up our structures. We know things like retention. Today you've trained someone so good, they are your best staff in dealing with taxpayers. They'll get a better job, they will move. So many things evolve, there's a lot involved. There are so many challenges, both structural, political, social, and even personal by the taxpayers. So from where we sit, one of the most complex things that is happening around us is tax. These days you'll find taxes in the boardrooms. Before, boardrooms were discussing governance, strategy, things which are not tax related, because it wasn't a huge number on the balance sheets and financial statements of companies. Now you find companies are actually closing because of tax. It's quite very serious. And I think if there's something that governments now need to look at, it has gone global. There are many tax laws that we have that are global based, what we call international tax, transfer pricing, international agreements, double taxation treaties. Those are very complex things. Now the question and how it spills over to the economy is, we have a big informal sector. So many of us have not gone to school. We are just operating our kiosks. But some of these kiosks make more than 1 million. A person who makes 1 million shillings is supposed to be paying tax, turnover tax, or any other income tax. You get to 5 million, you have to pay VAT. VAT is so complex. If you tell someone with a small hardware shop that they are going to do VAT, calculate 16%, do input, output, is it teams, e-teams, it's complex. But we are where we are, and the government is doing its best. They are doing awareness, but the challenges are just immense.
For the ordinary Kenyans, as you said, many lay people just see tax and you don't even understand what's going on. How can people, and maybe in this context women, improve their knowledge, basic knowledge about tax? Because we have you as the experts, but as a layperson, what are some of the things that I should be acquainting myself with when it comes to tax? Because, you know, tax planning is important. Sometimes there's a woman who owns a business who could be planning her taxes better to reduce it in an ethical way and just make something better out of herself. So what are some of the tips you would give that woman? Whether it's a business owner, whether it's a person in employment, what are some of those tips that can help her improve or plan her taxes well, even if she did not go to school and learn all about taxation and all that?
I think the first thing is to know that there's something called tax, whether you're educated or not. And first of all, you put yourself in a space where you've identified what you're doing. I'll take an example of an entrepreneur, a person who has opened up their kibanda, a stall somewhere. The moment you're clocking, let's say 200,000, you need to start asking yourself questions. What am I going to give to government? One, you may want to go to the bank to set up an account. When you go to the bank, they'll want you to have a PIN, whether you're educated or not. So you'll have to walk to either an internet cafe or Times Towers, customer care, or a Huduma Center and get a PIN. Now the beauty is once you get a PIN, you have to be physically there because there are documents they'll want from you. They'll start telling you that you're going to have to pay some tax. If it is turnover tax, they'll tell you the rate, it is on your turnover. Flat. If you're paying turnover tax, you're not supposed to pay any other taxes. It's a once-off and it's on your sales. That is the most direct and it is the simplest. And it was specifically made for those people who are in informal employment to make it simple for them. And I applaud government. That's a very good initiative. Now, if you go to the lengths of 5 million, which is so simple, because 5 million in a year, the people who are doing bedside furniture, people who are into hardware, those who have a grocery store, all those can easily make 5 million in turnover. Now you get to the complex stuff. What I would advise such people is before you are manipulated by fraudulent, we have those characters among all of us, you'd rather walk to a Huduma Center and get support to know how am I going to be paying my VAT, how am I going to be paying my income tax. That is the basic. The rest are nuances and they come as your business grows, where you may need now an advisor to help you compute your taxes. But typically everyone who does business and earns some form of income, you must have a PIN, you must be able to pay some form of tax. I think that's as simple as I can put it.
I want you to give us one more bit of advice, because I'm liking this conversation and you've spoken to that person who is in business. Now, she means business, the women who mean business, and they are also about financial literacy, improving themselves as an individual. That woman who is also trying to empower herself financially, she wants to grow her assets and so on and so forth. When it comes to tax, what one bit of advice, I mean, there's a lot that you could say, but one piece of advice that you would give them on how to look at their asset base as pertains to tax. I don't know if you're getting the idea what I'm saying, because you know there's taxes for different kinds of assets. So as you're trying to build yourself, what is that thing you should be considering when it comes to tax so that it's not eating into your returns as you're growing yourself?
First of all, you have to pay. I'll be candid and say many of us think they will sit back until we are got. But it's very hard now to hide. You must be transparent and start paying that small bit of tax. Many of us are in real estate. Simple business, you come, you go somewhere, you rent a house, you furnish it. You start earning income. You keep quiet. You say, no, I'm not. You're getting rent. We have what we call rental income. Compute 7.5% of your net income every month. Pay it to KRA. And like I said, what most people do not know that is that there are help centers at Times Tower, at Huduma centers. The officers are seated there. You don't have to do these things yourself. You can walk there and say, I have some rent. I make some 40,000 every month. How do I remit it? 40,000 multiply 7.5, pay your monthly rental income. You'll be a very happy person. You'll have some form of relief. and people won't be coming after you. Because what government has done now is that they do triangulation. To find you, they first find the property details, they find your tenant. Your tenant, remember, could be someone who is also in business. They are going to expense their rental expense. So then KRA will say, who are they renting from? Then they will find you. And when they find you, it's normally not a good conversation. Interest has come up, penalties have come up, you've not been filing. So what I would advise, let's just know that whatever business we are doing, there's some form of tax, and we can find out that tax. On rent, it is rental income. On normal income in a business, it is a business income. If it is small income, below 1 million, turnover tax. There's nothing you're going to do and you sit back and you're not paying any tax. I know people should know that that is a time bomb waiting to tick.
Now, as we talk about your professional career, I'd like you to give us one incident in your professional life that stands out as something that you're very proud of, some success, whatever it was in your professional life that you sit back and you say, I'm very proud of this, I'm glad I made a decision here, because it also helps people, you know, think about, okay, I have many decisions I need to make. How do I go about making a decision that is right for me and right for my career? So is there a standout moment, one, in your career that you say, you know what, I'm very proud of what I achieved here or what I did here?
Yeah, first of all, when I was growing up, my father was a teacher. He was in the teaching profession. He was a very renowned mathematician. And growing up around him and seeing him, I thought I would be an academician. Then, of course, as you finish campus, he passed on when I was still very young. So finishing campus, it was no longer about what you want to be, but what you can get. So I end up with the Revenue Authority as an officer, a revenue officer, and I work there. Unfortunately, when we restructured, I did not continue with the Revenue Authority. So that's how I ended up into accounting. So ending up into accounting, I had to do my SCCAs. I wasn't obliged, but I felt I always want to give my 100%. So when I did my SCCAs and continued, I finished, I was made a manager a bit prematurely. So for me, I felt I was so proud of that. But that is the time I told you I came to Kenya and all, and over time, come 2010, I got into a competition. It starts from the country to the region to Africa, region being East Africa to Africa. We used to have Europe, Middle East, then now globally. I went into that competition and I reached the global finals. For me, that was a turning point. It opened up so much for me. I got to meet a lot of the networks within EY across the world. I met our global leader. I traveled a lot. I went to South Africa for a stint. And if I look back, I feel that was for me the turning point. And having left the Revenue Authority the way I left, it gave me the confidence that I'm indeed good, I can make it, and I have the potential to be something that adds value to an organization. So for me, that's that one great achievement. And going forward, I've had several other recognitions. I thank God for that. And that's what has modeled and shaped my mantra of giving back and raising others, whether it means formally, informally, when I'm called on or not, I really feel like I must do good by others.
What has it been like balancing growing in your career and also balancing that with your own personal life? How has that been, that work-life balance, work-life integration, and so on and so forth? What does that look like for you?
I think for me, it's more like an integration. I don't think there's a stop to work, from work to life. That switch is not on anymore for me. I come home, I'm treating everyone like I'm still at work. I go to work, I'm treating everyone like I'm still at home. Because we spend a lot of time at work. We cannot hide away from the fact that it models more what we are even in our personal life. So for me, I don't even feel I've achieved it yet. Even when I'm home, I think of something I forgot to do, I'm pulling out my laptop. You're in the house, you're with family, you're working. You've gone out maybe for vacation or whatever, you're on phone talking to a client. So it's not easy to achieve, but it's achievable. You can switch off and say, this is time for this. But what I can say, and I'm not proud of it, is you'll still find what you left to do it. So it's quite a balance that has to be done. For those of us who have families, who have kids, they are young mothers, I really encourage them to do what I almost failed to do, to really take time and breathe. It helps. The only thing which I have learned over the years is part of why you have to keep going back and be working when you shouldn't is poor handover and poor management of the teams. Because where I work, we work in teams. So when you feel that you're off and everyone is calling you, there's something you didn't do. So find that something. First of all, get your key clients. Let your key contact know you're away. Get your teams. Try to see that they cover you so that you only come in when you really must. And for me, it took long to learn that, and probably I'm still learning it. But I believe the word integration was a very good word to introduce in work life, because we just have to integrate the two. Balancing is quite hard.
Now, before we go into a quick fire section, just to know a little bit more about you outside your work, I'd like you to tell us about a point that was a low point in your career. Was there any moment that you maybe made a decision, or you felt like, oh, I could have done it better, or you wish you would have done something different? Is there any point that you can speak to?
I think for me there are many. As a human being and as a person who is in leadership, many times you may make the not so good decisions or the not so correct decisions. But one that I feel is normally a tough one is where you have many teams and where you have clashes with clients. Now, managing those two and choosing which one do you give priority, which one don't you, and how you manage each of them can quite be a challenge. And at times, you don't get it right.
Yeah.
At times, you don't get it right. At times, because we deal with many people, you are trying to communicate something, and you're in a meeting. Sometimes you've come in abruptly and you're not flowing as well because you didn't prepare adequately. That also can happen a lot, and it's normal because of the nature of work we have. So for me, at times I feel I normally take time to take a step and check, was I right here? Did I make that decision right? But what, again, on the other side, I do is consulting is good, and you don't have to consult only those above you. Sometimes the people we lead have the better answers. So for me, it's consult, consult, consult.
Yeah, and as you speak about consulting, because you said it's not just those above you, even those below you, that 360, how do you go about it? Because sometimes there are some people who fear that, oh my goodness, now if I'm going back to my team, I'm leading my team, and it looks like I don't have all the answers, then how do I appear? So what piece of advice would you give to those women who are feeling like, yes, there's also that reverse mentorship and so on and so forth, but how do you do it in a way that it's still clear that you are the leader, but you still value the opinions of your team because you don't know everything?
Two things: humility, vulnerability. There is no way you can lead by not being vulnerable. Someone must see you and know that you don't know it all. You also have struggles, and you can also be like them. Then also you have to be humble. If you don't know, you don't know, and you must learn. There is the new coined word people have now: learn, unlearn, relearn. So as a leader, you cannot just think you learned and that's it. There are certain things you need to unlearn, and there are things you need to relearn. And that's how even the people below you, sometimes you're fidgeting, you're on a Teams call, you don't even know how to switch off, to use some of the buttons. It's the intern, that intern who did IT, who is going to come and sort you out. Sometimes your volume fails. It's so embarrassing, but That is the vulnerability and the humility to be able to call on someone else to help you.
Now, let's switch gears and know a little bit more about Hadijah beyond work. So what do you do for fun?
Interesting, because I'm the gamer. I do Sudoku, what do they call it? Block Blast, Candy Crush. And it's funny because at my very advanced age, I play Candy Crush and it just rejuvenates me. It just gives me that power. It's not like me, but I'm a music lover. I like it. It really soothes me. There are those very bad days. At times over lunch hour, I just want to play 1 or 2 songs to get me back into tune. I love exercise. I'm an ardent health freak. So I do gym. I walk. I love to walk. I play a bit of badminton. I don't like reading so much, the bit of novels or whatever, but I'm a TV addict, mainly series and reality TV. That's how I spend my time. Not much, I do, but at least I get out of the space of work and look at things that are within the natural environment. What
kind of music do you listen to when you're having a tough day? Which genre?
It depends. There are times when I feel I'm too low and light. I can't even play Afrobeat or junk, something fast and hard. But then there are days I'm just feeling I want soothing music. I want to hear R&B. I want to hear instrumental jazz. Yeah, so it depends on the mood I'm in.
Yeah. And what does your gym regimen look like? What kind of exercise do you do? Strength,
I do all, but for me, I don't really focus so much on weight, but I focus on fat, the health side of it. So I do a lot of strength to tone.
You've talked about family. Do you visit Uganda a lot, or?
This is embarrassing, but I visit more outside Uganda because I also like to adventure. So I travel a lot from a personal perspective to go and have holiday and refresh sometimes. But I also visit Uganda. However, most of my folks prefer to come here because they also want to change environment. Yeah. So you'd find sometimes I get visitors. Fewer times I go, then other times when I have the time, I do a vacation.
Now, as we conclude this interview, I'd like you to look into the camera and speak to that woman, whether she's in business, whether she's in employment. What is that one piece of advice that you would give her about making the most of her career, getting the best out of it, and really just ensuring that she advocates for herself and learns all she needs to be to get to where she needs to go to?
Hello, sister. I am telling you, we all come from far, but you can make it and you can get there. You have to be curious, confidence. Do not look at yourself with the cultural norms and myths. You have to be confident. You have to make use of other sisters out there, other females, other ladies who can encourage you. If you get a setback, you need to make sure that you stand up. I normally use the words, failure is not an option. You can make it. There are so many people to hold your hand along the way. There are so many people who can make things better for you. So you are not alone. Just keep moving and pushing.
Sister, you've heard it from Hadijah Nannyomo. You are not alone. There are many people who can hold your hand. So keep going and you'll get to where you want to be. This has been She Means Business. We've been talking to Hadijah Nannyomo, who is a tax partner at EY. And until next time, have a good one.